In this video, we're going to look at how we can use surface noise and textures to create details on our model. So if you open up the surface noise panel here, the default behavior is the procedural kind of grunge noise texture. So if we set up the strength here and we play with the noise scale, we can see that we're getting a kind of rocky type surface. So there's a lot of uses for this. And if we start layering it together, we can get something really interesting. So if we press OK, if I press it right now, apply to mesh, you can see it doesn't look very good. So it looked really good and then I applied it. So this is just a preview showing what it will look like. But if you don't have enough polygons, here I only have 186,000, I can't capture that detail. So I need to subdivide my model or remesh it somehow. So here, if I'm up to 2.9 million and I press apply to mesh, I get something closer to what I had there. It still looks a little bit better here, but to be honest, these are quite similar now. It's just we're not really rendering shadows. But yeah, if I want to go one more higher, depending on your computer, 11 million, there we go. That's probably something I can handle here. So there's a lot you can do with this. You can, if I do Control Z, I can mask where this is happening. That doesn't look terribly good, so let's try using this color spray. So while I'm holding Control, I can draw a more interesting mask here to kind of decide where I want that pattern to be. So if I now apply it, it's only going to apply it in the area that's unmasked. So another thing that's quite useful here is that if you're already done your kind of topology and now you just want to do some fine level detail, you might want to work on layers. So if I create a new layer here, I usually just make a base layer where I don't have anything on it, and then I'll make a new layer for the noise or whatever else you want, whatever kind of detail. So now make sure that record is on there and we can apply the noise here, but it looks like I forgot to undo it. So let's just go ahead and add some more and we'll apply it there. So now in our layers we have, we can turn this off and we can play with the intensity here. We can hide it. So what you want to do is you want to kind of get some layers to this noise. If you just have one, it's going to look kind of uniform all over. So if we change, for example, the scale of it, we go in with some finer noise here and we start layering it on top of each other, we'll get something more interesting. Another really useful thing you can do here, let me undo back to before I'd applied the first one. So what I want to do is I want to store a copy of my model before I apply it. So I'll press store morph target, then I'm going to apply the noise, I'm going to clear my mask, and now I can use either this morph target to change the intensity of it. So if I want to get rid of some of it, I can do that. If I want to double it up to make it stronger, I can go the other way. But now you can also use your morph brush. So we go to the, if we press M here, we can find our morph brush. And once again, we can use those color spray to make this look kind of an interesting shape. And then we're going to paint where this is. So let's change the intensity and let's switch it. So I'm going to erase the noise. So now the stored copy is the noisy one, and then I can kind of paint back where I want it. So this is a nice way of blending the noises and getting some more control over it. So also what we can do in this noise is play with this curve here, and we can get some interesting shapes here. So if you kind of crush these values a little bit in different ways, just experiment with this, but then you start to get areas that are less affected and areas that are more affected, and this looks pretty interesting too. So this is the what we call the basic noise, the grunge. We've also got a noise plugin here. So if you come in here, you've got some procedural textures that have been programmed that we can use. So let's turn the mix basic noise off to get rid of the grunge pattern, and let's change the plugin scale here. And we can change the strength and the scale and just see what we like here. And we've also got some angles and things like that. Offset. So by default, what's going to happen is that you're going to notice that your So what's going to happen here is you're going to notice that your texture is stretched on the sides, which is not what we want. So based on how I kind of set that up, how I was looking at it originally, it looks really good from the front, like as though we were shining this from a projector onto him, but then at the sides it got stretched out. So the way around this is to use UVs. So similar to how fabric is made, we're going to put the seams where we want them, and this is going to make sure that the pieces lay out flat. So if you have subdivision levels, go down to your lowest level here, and you're going to unwrap it. So if we just go ahead and do an unwrap, and we look at our UVs here, we can morph. So we can see that's unwrapped pretty nicely, but the seams may not be where we want them. So let's have a look at what happened here. So we're going to go to the noise, we're going to edit it, and we're going to select UV here. So now after reapplying that noise, we can see that we don't have as much stretching going on, which is what we wanted, but we do have some bad repetition here. So this is where the seams of your UVs are. So if we morph our UVs, we can see that there was a seam right across the chest there, which is not what we really wanted. So I'll make another video about making good UVs, but this guy already has some nice polygroups. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the UV master, and I'm going to select polygroups, and I'm going to unwrap, and it's going to use those polygroups for my seams. There we go. So now if I reapply that to the mesh, you see that my seams look much better now. So these are actually in places that kind of make sense to have seams, like where the legs, at the top of the legs, and maybe not this one, that's not great. But yeah, ZBrush has got some new UV tools coming out that are going to give us a lot more fine level control over this. But you can see that it doesn't look terribly bad. So use polygroups to your advantage here. So look out for a UV video that I'm going to make soon to help with this problem here. So now I'm going to do one more thing, which is to use an image. So we've looked at the basic noise, we've looked at the noise plug, and now the last thing is that we are going to use our texture. So we're going to click here where it says pick alpha, and we're going to select a height map or a depth map of some kind. So you can just find a black and white image on Google, or you can generate one from Substance Painter or similar. What happened here is we get something ugly, so we need to just figure out how strong to make it and how big to make it. So turn the mix basic noise down again, and play with this alpha scale until you start to see something that makes sense, and then play with your strength as well here. So as of the new version of ZBrush, you can finally rotate the texture right in here, which is amazing because it's been 15 years of missing that feature, so glad to see that's finally added. So yeah, just play with your strength value here, and you can apply that to mesh. So just make sure that you have enough polygons, and if you get a kind of rough result even at 11 million here, last thing you might want to do is just put a little bit of polish. So let's polish this at a very small value, like 0.1, and that's just going to kind of blur out the shape a little bit, and it looks quite nice now. You may also want to use the mask by noise feature, so rather than just applying it as a detail, you can mask it, and then you can do things like polygroup the mask, all the things that you can normally do with a mask. And you can also use this obviously to paint as well. We can use our color values here to also apply color at the same time. So let's enable poly paint and then apply that to mesh. And if you want to reuse this noise again without having to rebuild it, you can save the noise as an external file and load that back in on other models. All right, that is the NoiseMaker.